Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. The FIFA appointed normalization committee that has been in charge of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association since March 2020 has filed for insolvency protection as it buys time to develop a proposal to repay almost 100 million TT dollars worth of debt accumulated over the years. The normalization committee says a report from Ernst & Young in April this year showed that the TTFA owes 98.5 million TT dollars to its creditors. The normalization committee says it has appointed a trustee of insolvency and given that person up to 6 months to oversee the development of a payment plan. Head of the normalization committee, Robert Haddad, says the move is critical to removing the debt millstone from around the neck of the TTFA. This is what he said. The process as it was designed will allow the TTFA to manage its operation and provide a stay from all legal proceedings and creditor action for a period of up to 6 months. At this stage, all options are on the table. The sale of the home of football is definitely an option. Now, in the wake of the announcements, questions are being raised about whether Haddad and his fellow committee members are passing the buck, given that the creation of a debt repayment plan was part of the mandate given to them at the time of their appointment in March last year. So, as we see the graphic of the mandate, look at number 3, review and amend the TTFA statutes to ensure compliance, and then 4, organize and conduct elections of a new TTFA executive. And there was point 2, which I think is most important. Point 2, establish a debt repayment plan that is implemented by the TTFA. So number 2, very critical there. And people are saying, well, if you were charged with doing this in your terms of reference at start, how come you are asking a trustee of insolvency to do that work for you? Joining us to discuss the issue is Chief Editor at Wired 868, Lasana Liburd. Wired 868 have a comprehensive story written on this issue with several questions which may pop in your mind being answered in the story that they put together from the release sent by the normalization committee. So after this interview is finished, if you are minded to, you could find some more information, I'm sure, at Wired 868 on this very issue. Lasana, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Lasana, are you hearing us? All right, he doesn't seem to be there quite just yet. Doesn't seem to be there quite just yet. It gives us a chance to, while the team work on getting him back, to talk about the issue. First, how did this story strike both of you?
Well, for me, at first I felt as if, why the TTFA? They're in the headlines again, and not for sport, but we do know that there has been a massive debt that they have accumulated. A lot of questions started to circle in my mind. If the debt, the 98.5 million TT George, was it from the previous administration? Is it that numbers were that happened also through COVID? And I had a lot of questions, and I genuinely wanted to speak to somebody at the helm to find out how much more debt has incurred since then. Just a lot of questions, more questions than answers.
Yeah, you know what, when the entire situation with the normalization committee was established and the toxic general elections for the TTFA between David John Williams and William Wallace and so on, the figure I seem to remember standing out for the debt was something like 50 or 60 million.
Yes.
60 million. So what jumped out at me now is seeing 98.5, which is 14.5 million US dollars. That is a lot of money. And it was something that should have been addressed hastily with the normalization committee. So it just seemed very belated to me. When I saw the story, I said, oh, they hadn't been tackling this from last year?
Yeah, so Mariah asked the question, excellent point, I want to come to that. The point is, though, that on the question, well, the TTFA claims, the normalization committee claims, that it hasn't incurred any debt since taking office. So the 98.5 million would have been for the previous administrations before it took over in March 2020, because it says all it has been doing is trying to run the FA day to day.
Yeah, and I guess with COVID-19.
Yes, yes. So there wouldn't have been, things of the kind for them to reach that position. Also, the issue of the 98.5 million, that figure would include something called contingent liability, which is based on actions against the TTFA now, and they assume that based on all facts considered, they're likely to lose that case, and they know how much money is involved, they've factored in that amount into the 98.5 million. So it's not as if everybody who the TTFA owes, its creditors, has a receipt for 90 for
like part of the unasserted claims.
Right. So unasserted claim or contingent liability, interchangeable descriptors for debts that are likely to be incurred down the road. Now, you ask a very good question. We thought that Haddad and company, Haddad, Romano, and the company were doing all of what they say the trustee of insolvency is to preside over.
Yeah.
And given the kind of business people that we're talking about, I'm surprised. But I know enough to know that there must be a strong reason or strong reasons for these things not happening. I'm saying to myself, well, so they have 6 months to get this thing together, the trustee of insolvency to preside over this process of organizing a debt repayment plan. 6 months. But the time for me should be shorter because guess what? In terms of, so Lance says the TTFA owes him 5 million. Mariah, you say they owe you 900,000. I say the TTFA owes me 800,000. What the statement from the normalization committee is saying that this new team will now need to verify those claims and substantiate those claims against the receipts and the paper trail. But so what have you been doing since March 2020?
I know.
Because I thought all of that would have been done. So you would have had all the documents in hand to know that, okay, we owe Lance X, we owe Mariah X, we owe George X. This is the supporting documentation. So that trustee of insolvency would now come and take it a step further. But we shouldn't be detained in this process by doing work that one would have reasonably thought would have been going on from last year.
And another question I had is, was this the only approach they had? Because I'm hearing things about selling the home of football, which doesn't sit very well with me because I know now that is the pride and the joy, and it's a point that the footballers look forward to. You know, it's supposed to be their home where they don't have to worry about staying at hotels. They have a good facility. George, you actually, I didn't even have the opportunity to tour the home of football. You got that opportunity, and based on, you know, your reviews and whatnot, that's supposed to be the pride and joy.
Yeah, that's been a political football from the moment ground broke. Yeah. So there are some people who don't want David John Williams to have that in his legacy, to say, look at this facility, I built it. So because of whatever political reasons, there are many people who don't want that to remain an asset of the TTFA for that very reason, because of Lance spoke about the rancorous nature of the election between Wallace and his slate and John Williams and his slate. And some people want to change history. But I'm saying that based on where they are now, I am certain the trustee of insolvency will authorize the sale of any asset that can bring the funds into hand to pay the creditors. What may happen, and this is something I wanted to ask Lasana, it could be, all right, so 98.5 million is owed. It could be that when you sum all of the TTFA's assets, it comes out to say, I'm just using an arbitrary figure, what if it comes out to say 60 million, but you owe 98 million? You're not in the shape where you can go to a bank and ask for a loan, yeah? What that will mean, oh, he's back online here. I can ask you, I can put this question to him. Lasana, are you here with us now?
I am, yes. You hear me?
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear.
All right.
Yeah, and you missed the great plug I gave the website at the start of the interview when I was telling people to go there to read a comprehensive report of this issue concerning the insolvency filing. But, you know, they can still go after this interview. Hear me now, Lasana. I'm wondering, we jumped ahead in the discussion while we were trying to reconnect with you, but I'm at the point where I was saying, what if the trustee of insolvency, Maria Daniel, am I correct in identifying her?
Yes, you are.
Good. She has an outstanding reputation with Ernst & Young, has a lot of experience in dealing with these things. You can read her bio on the internet for those who are interested. What if when she does her work, Lasana, and crunches the numbers, say for instance the TTFA's assets come out to 45 million and they hold 98.5 million. Is it conceivable that creditors could be asked to take cents on the dollar, and could this lead to court action down the road, you think?
Well, the whole using the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, it kind of takes away some of the powers that creditors would have in terms of taking action against the FA, which I assume is why they do that. You know, in theory, they should have been speaking to the creditors ever since the normalization committee was appointed last March. As far as I know, that hasn't happened. I've spoken to several of the major creditors, right? This action now, in theory, gives more power to the FA in forcing them, let's say, to take the cents of the dollar, right?
Right.
And one point of the 90-something million figure, right, which is kind of interesting. In the general meeting, Mr. Haddad noted that they have removed the home of football as an asset, you know, because of some issues regarding the deed and so on, which they had as a $42 million asset, right? It's not clear if they then put the home of football as a liability or not, right? Because there's a swing of about 40 million. Remember that William Wallace, the last president, put the debt at around 50 million.
Yes.
So if you put in the home of football now as a liability, they get 90-something million, right? So there's a bit of confusion in terms of how the figure shot up from around 50 million to 90 million, and the home of football seems to be just in the middle of that, and it's very curious right now.
Yeah, well, that means then that if it is, and that's a very good point to raise, if it is that the home of football is listed in the accounts as a liability, then those who are wondering if it could be sold to repay the debt, I mean, the answer is evident. It cannot then be sold under those circumstances. Yeah.
There are a lot of questions, still to be answered, of course. And I have been, for much of the day, doing some follow-up work. I'll probably do a story later tonight on it.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of the background to this action.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Lasana, that's what we do as journalists. We provide answers. People are screaming bankruptcy. We know bankruptcy is different from insolvency. Usually an individual is bankrupt. Companies are insolvent. And I heard you speak about the protection that the court offers. But let's be clear. Isn't it true that for the 6 months that Maria Daniel and Haddad and company have to hammer out a payment plan and then have that approved by the creditors, that this 6 months is what the court is protecting the TTFA against? Because if after devising that plan, you as a creditor reject the terms that they've come forward in the plan, there is nothing from this filing for insolvency that can prevent you later down the road from going to court to get what you believe is your full due after you've rejected what they've put to you under the payment plan. Is that clear? Is that correct?
That's true. That's true. And I think another point to make when you noted the 6 months here is that the court actually, as far as I understand, grants a 30-day stay, not 6 months. But what they do is that they could apply for that 30-day stay for a maximum of 5 times.
So that's why you get the 6 months.
So that would mean that the TTFA is already essentially saying that we are going to use this for as long as we could. And that sounds like stalling. It doesn't sound like a genuine attempt by the FA to make good with its creditors. It sounds like they are saying, we're going to make you all wait as long as we can make you wait.
Yes, and at the basic level, Lasana, isn't this a way for the TTFA to, one, prevent interest from accruing on the debts that they have, and also to ensure that those who they owe, well, almost like a gag order then, because you can't do anything and the court won't grant you any action against them, given that the court will itself have approved the use of time to work out something amenable and agreeable that all parties can then sign and settle the debts.
Yes, this is true. They're bringing the court into this bit. I can tell you it's very, very frustrating for the creditors, some of whom have been waiting for years. I would say unfairly, because if they know, FIFA legislation allows for foreign coaches to be paid immediately, directly through FIFA, whereas local coaches have to go to court. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Which would be why Caroline Morache, Terry Fennick could use it as well, Stuart Charles February. They were paid directly from FIFA, who would have simply taken the money out of the TTFA subvention, whereas Anton Cornell, Dennis Lawrence, Kendall Walks, everyone else has to go through the court process, right?
Yeah.
Now, the background to that is that on Friday, Kendall Walks, who is owed $5.4 million, he would be the most aggressive creditor thus far, approached the courts again, they want to know where is TTFA's money going to. Because there's an order, he has a court order, they're supposed to be paying him, and TTFA is collecting millions from FIFA, and they can't find the money.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's
and then we have this bankruptcy thing, just essentially the first working day after Kendall Walk's court move.
Yeah, Lasana, and you're a man very close to the action, so maybe you can tell us if this was the best approach or there were other approaches of handling this matter.
Well, it is one approach. It's been on the table since William Wallace was there, actually. It had been raised, the possibility of bankruptcy, of insolvency has been around for a long time. The previous presidents felt that they could do better, maybe they felt it was an immoral way to handle the whole thing. I would definitely think that a first step would be trying to talk to the creditors, at least in good faith, and seeing if an agreement could be reached of any sort. And I mean, I could tell you, I've spoken to a few of them. I've spoken to Anton Cornell, Stephen Hart, Kendall Walks. They are all owed close to over $5 million. And none of them have had meaningful conversation with Haddad at all since he took over.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question, because I was reading an article where Selby Brown, who is the Veteran Football Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago president, was actually saying that, none of the members were consulted, and he felt as if Robert Haddad, who was put in that position to, ease the pressure of the TTFA, especially because of everything that has been going on around the organization, they felt as if he betrayed the position.
Yeah, well, I could understand him feeling that way. If you look at it, the normalization committee came in to smoothen the operations of our football to help repay the debt. Have any of those things happened? We're almost to the end of the term right now. Is our football in a better place? Is our administration of football any more transparent than it was before? And are the creditors any better off? And I think the answer to all of those things are no, and I would say probably even worse than they were before.
Lasana, perhaps it is, we were speculating before you came as to why something that is so necessary took too long to be resolved, the issue of knowing how much you owe your creditors and working out that payment plan. Could it be that Haddad and company would say, they didn't say in their press release, that they didn't trust the accounts that they inherited, and so because they weren't confident in the numbers, they had to wait on Ernst & Young to do its work and then present them with a report that they could trust the credibility of the numbers in terms of the overall debt position before going forward. And I know that report had an April date on it, but you know how these things work. Could that be a credible excuse? Could anybody accept that line of reasoning from them as to why it took so long to get here?
Well, the issue with some of these debts is that these people already have court orders, so it's gone well beyond the TTFA. So when you decline to pay, when you're being creative in terms of where your funding goes, then it is, they could say, disrespectful to the courts of Trinidad and Tobago. The fact is, you don't need to bring in Ernst & Young to tell you what you're looking at in front of you. It's an order from the High Court saying that you owe Kendall Walks this amount, you owe Dennis Lawrence, well, not Dennis Lawrence, Anton Cornell and so on this amount. So for that reason, I don't think that the excuse exonerates them.
Given where we are, as we wrap up, Lasana, given where we are with the insolvency trustee in place, are we likely to, you believe, get a breakdown of that 98.5 million to see specifically what the debt, the debt captures? Well, the members asked for it and they didn't get it. Again, this is the way it's been going. Imagine FIFA sends us a subvention. FIFA sent millions to the TTFA in the last year and a half. And nobody knows where it goes to. Not even the members of the TTFA know where the football is going to, where the football money is going to serve. And could that be right? But that is the situation we're in right now. All right, thank you very much. We'll pay close attention to what you post, wired868.com. Lasana, thank you for speaking with us and thank you for the good work as usual. Oh, glad to be here. Good. Chief Editor at Wired 868, Lasana Liburd. The producer says break time, so we comply.